Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about 28 ways to save money and make money that you have to try. Now this is part of my low buy series. I felt incredibly empowered over the last 7 months whilst trying to buy very little and save as much as possible, and I've been learning so much more about how to make my money work for me. So I want to say a massive thank you to Female Invest for sponsoring today's video. We're going to get all into what that platform actually does for us with number one. So without further ado, grab a cup of coffee. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe so that you never miss another video, and we'll get into number one. So the first one is to invest your money rather than just to have it sitting in a savings account. Of course, it's very important to have an emergency fund, but the reason why investing is so important and just a really great way to make your money go much further is because one, inflation. Inflation is approximately 2% per year. So if your money is sitting in a savings account that does not have an interest rate of at least 2%, then over time your money is going to be depreciating and losing value. And especially as women, we earn less, therefore we save less, therefore we invest less. And this really hurts us over time, especially when we come to retirement. But those of you who are interested in investing, you're probably, especially if you're watching my channel, are interested in sustainable investing or investing in sustainable industries. And there is one key term that we need to think about when thinking about sustainable investing, and that is ESG. E stands for environmental. This includes factors such as carbon footprint, renewable energy consumption. S stands for social. This has to do with things like employer safety and the company's ethical supply chain. G stands for governance. This has to do with the managing team, company business, ethics, and transparency. Sustainable investing is more than just screening out certain sectors like oil, gas, and tobacco. We need to take ESG factors into consideration, and there are many different ways of investing, but one thing I'm always looking for is ESG reporting. Of course, I am absolutely not an expert in investing, and I've only recently become interested in the idea of investing, and this is why I turned to Female Invest, because it has countless animated videos, webinars, discussion forums where you can ask any questions, and it's all a very safe environment, just full of women where we can talk about money unashamedly, guilt-free, and really have the conversations that we haven't really been having before, or if we have, it's been very hush-hush, or it's been felt a little bit uncomfortable. And of course, you can learn so much more about sustainable investing from Female Invest. They have dedicated experts who reply to the comments on the forum as well. I think I learned more in one day on that platform than I have in the past year, where I've been trying to learn as much as I can about investing ethically and sustainably. And I know many of you guys have been asking me about this as well, so this is definitely somewhere that I would highly recommend. And if you want to hear more about Female Invest from somebody else, then I would highly recommend checking out Mary's channel. She's done a whole video on sustainable investing, and she's actually been using Female Invest for, I think, over a year now. And if you are interested in learning more from the platform Female Invest, then I would highly recommend checking out the link in the description for 50% off the annual subscription. So the second one is to make use of any government initiatives or incentives to save money. In the UK, that's why you get tax benefits from saving into a pension, but also you get tax benefits and additional money if you save into things like a LISA or an ISA. Now, these are just tax efficient ways because you don't pay any tax on the interest that you earn from these little pots, and you can put a maximum of £20,000 a year into your ISAs, which is a huge amount of money. Now, the difference between just a simple ISA and a LISA are just simply the regulations that they have on them. The reason why I think a LISA is such a great idea, especially for someone like me who's self-employed, is because for every £4 that you put in, the government will put £1 in. And you can put a maximum of £4,000 a year. So if you're saving to buy a house, for example, which is one of the only ways you can take your money out of the LISA, you can essentially get £1,000 a year from the government for free. That is free money. And if you are trying to save for a house, and if you think about this in terms of long run, I'm trying to buy a house or a flat or an apartment, whatever, probably in around 5 years' time. So by the time I put in £4,000 a year for the next 5 years or whatever, and I've already been doing that for the past 2 years, that's an additional £7,000 from the government that they've just put in. Now, what you can also do with an ISA and a LISA is turn it into a stocks and shares one. And this, again, not only are you getting the benefits of a tax efficiency, but you're also investing that money in those ISAs, and you're not going to be paying any tax on the money that you gain from the compound interest over time and the investment. I'm sure there are similar things in other countries depending on where you're from, so I would definitely check that out because they are wonderful. The third one is the same goes for your pension. Again, using any government scheme that you possibly can to get free money. If you're doing salary sacrifice, then obviously that means that you're paying less tax on your income because a portion of that gets put into your pension before it's taxed. Or if, like me, you don't have a salary sacrifice, any personal contributions that I put in will be topped up 25% by the government. So if I put in £200, the government will put in £50. And that's, again, great because your pension goes into investment, and then over time that is just a huge amount of money. So I highly recommend opening a pension if you have not done so already. The fourth one is to buy things out of season. Winter coats are a great example. They're expensive, especially if you live in some really cold area. So buying them secondhand and at the end of the cold season or out of season for the next winter will save you a lot of money. I did this when I moved to Michigan. My friends and I did this when we did our year abroad there because we don't live in cold climates like that are extreme. We bought our coats secondhand, they were extraordinarily cheap, and then we donated them again at the end of the year because they were still in perfectly good condition. 5 is to join a local no-buy group. You can do this on Facebook, I think, and then you can just share things between. I think in America you also have Free Cycle and things like that. There are so many great ways that you and communities who exchange things rather than buying things. So this is a really, really great way to get free things, but also declutter some of your stuff if you don't necessarily want to sell them or you want to be able to exchange it for something else. Number 6 is to sell the stuff that you no longer use. I just sold a few items because, again, I'm trying to move, so I'm trying to declutter as sustainably as possible. I sold a couple of t-shirts, I've sold a camera, there are many things that I am trying to sell, and all the money that I've sold that stuff for, I've been able to put straight into my savings account, ready for moving. Number 7 is to set up automatic transfers. This completely changed the game for me. I don't even think about saving, and I don't even think about that money as mine anymore. A lot of people online, investment people and financial people, will say pay yourself first, i.e. put money into your savings account. And when you automate things, they become natural habits and you just don't even have to think about it. When you do things manually, you have that voice in your head being like, oh, maybe I'll put in a bit less. Maybe I'll just spend a bit of this money. Maybe I'll just, no, automate those transfers. Do it. I have several different ones. I have an automated one that goes into my LISA, I have an automated one that goes into my stocks and shares ISA, and then I have an automated one that goes into my general savings account, which is my emergency fund. Which leads me on to number 8. If you do not sit down and have an honest look at your finances, it's so hard to budget, and therefore it's impossible to save as much as you actually can save. And no amount of money is too small to save, just like no amount of money is too small to invest. You don't need to be incredibly wealthy to be an investor or invest in things. You also don't need to have a huge amount of money to save each month to make it worth it over the long run. Sitting down and having an honest look at your finances gives you a really great indication of how much you can save, how much you need to budget for bills and rent and all the fun and boring things like that. And then also what you're allowed to spend on food and just general necessities, but also some things that you actually just want to spend money on. Having a solid budget will give you a great outline of how much you can save, and then you can calculate over a year how much money you will save, and that could be a really great motivation to keep going and to keep saving and to keep getting on top of your finances. Number 9 is to cancel any subscriptions or direct debits that you're just not getting the most value out of or that you're not really using. You would be surprised at the amount of people that just pay for things out of their bank that they're not even using. I was actually shook when someone told me that they've still paid for a gym subscription but they don't go. And it's because these companies will create friction to make it difficult for you to do that. But if you cancel those subscriptions, you will be saving that money each month, and you have to remember, this is your money. It's got to make it work for you. Number 10. Always shop around when it comes to yearly payments. My sister recently redid her car insurance, And I basically was like, let's go on Money Supermarket, let's try and find you a better deal. And what she was able to do is find a cheaper alternative for the same thing. And then she called up her current insurance because she couldn't be bothered to change, and then told them what price match she'd managed to find and would they give her the same offer. And they said yes, because they wanted to keep her obviously as a client. So they price matched the one that she was able to find cheaper. This can be done for so many things. You can do this with your internet, with your mobile phone, with your car insurance. And one of the best things to do is say, I found it cheaper elsewhere, here's what I found, and I'm gonna leave unless you find me a better offer. And then they're like, no, and then they try to keep you with everything they possibly can. I mean, have you ever tried to leave like a subscription service and they're like, okay, but if you stay, we'll give you 5 free credits, and you're like, no, still want to cancel, and they're like, okay, but if you stay, I'll give you 10 free credits. That's the kind of, they want to give you incentives to stay. So shop around, always shop around. It can save you so much money. She ended up saving over £280. If you're finding it hard to complete number 8, then you might find it, beneficial to have something like a budgeting app. I personally don't use them, so I don't have any good recommendations for you. But if you have them and you use them in the comments, please leave a comment so that other people can know the apps that you use and would highly recommend. Lots of people I know do use these because they are just really beneficial. I think there are loads now that you can link all of your bank accounts to, so they can see everything that you're saving, that you're spending, and put it all into a little spreadsheet for you. These are really great ways to just have eyes on everything that's going on, because if you've got loads of different accounts and you're not quite sure what you're spending your money on, it's very easy to lose track. So yeah, I would highly recommend an app. Okay, number 12. It's really important to also actually enjoy your life. So I think what a great thing to do is to sit down and think about the areas in which you are willing to cut back on, that you can cut back on, that you're probably spending a bit too much money on. And eating out certainly was one of those things for me. And living through the pandemic just made me kind of realize how much money I was wasting on fees for delivery and all of these extra things. So finding out what you're willing to cut back on, what would make the most sense to cut back on the sort of the bigger things rather than so many tiny things that wouldn't make that much of a difference. And then write those down and decide on those things. Which leads me on to number 13, which is to make your staples at home. It's wild how expensive some shop-bought things can be. Obviously things like sourdough bread, they're expensive because of the labor that goes into them. But if you're someone who loves baking, then you could easily save quite a bit of money by learning to make something like that at home. Sourdough bread in London, you're probably spending £5 to £6 on a big loaf. That's a lot of money for flour and water. But then again, the labor that goes into sourdough, I personally would still pay for it because I have tried to make sourdough and just absolutely failed. But if you are gifted in the baking situation, unlike me, then it might be worth it for you to learn to make that at home. Okay, number 14. When you do want to treat yourself to something like a takeaway, it's much cheaper and more affordable to buy directly from the actual restaurant. I don't know if that is the same in every country, but in the UK in particular, especially around this area where my parents live, if you buy directly, you often get 10-15% off. You pay no delivery fees if you go and collect it as well. And you also are getting money off your total bill by directly buying through them. There are no fees that you have to pay, no service fees, no additional fees that places like Deliveroo will charge you. Plus Deliveroo are incredibly unethical, and personally I hate them. So if you don't want to support them and you'd rather support the company directly, then please buy straight from the restaurant. I also watched some kind of documentary that talked about how the restaurant gets so little of the money that they actually get for a takeaway because of all the fees that they additionally have to pay. So Deliveroo and places like that are earning big dollar when the restaurants are suffering and we're paying fees that we don't want to be paying. Just a tip. Okay, if like me you use the train a lot because I don't have a car, and also I can't be asked to cycle 60 miles just to get back to London, just take my bike on the train, I would highly recommend, if you're under the age of 30 or if you are retired, to get a rail card. Now you can get one that's 16 to 25 or 26 to 30, which is now the box that I am in. It costs about £30, but you get a third off every train fare that you buy. I think it's off-peak trains only, but a third is actually a huge amount. When I get the train back from here to London, instead of it costing me £20 for one way, it cost me around 13, and that makes it much more affordable to be able to do that, and I'm saving so much money. In 4 trips I saved the whole entire money that I spent basically on the rail card in the first place. Number 16, and this is something I did a long time ago when I tried to beat my fast fashion habit, and that's to delete any apps that encourage you to buy things on your phone. That's, fashion apps. If you're still using Amazon, delete that app. I would also suggest removing any autofill for your payment cards and things like that on your computer, because if you create a little bit more friction, then you're making it harder to do something. Therefore, you're likely to take a second longer to think about whether you actually want those items and decide against it. Number 17. Okay, this one takes a little bit of explaining, so bear with me. On a recent Hidden Brain episode, they talked about impulsivity and how a sense of purpose can help in getting a handle on this. Obviously, I'm abbreviating, so if you want to listen to the full episode, I will put it below. But what I would suggest is honing in on what your purpose for saving is. Are you moving abroad like me? Are you wanting to buy your first home? Are you trying to build an investment portfolio so you can retire at 50? Whatever it is, it's worth your while to sit down and spend some time thinking about your purpose. And even more effective, so the science says, maybe take some extra time to consider your larger purpose in life. Getting a handle on the impulse to buy or spend money will help you enormously save money in the long run. Bit of a weird one, but we love behavior change on this channel. Make saving money emotional. BJ Fogg talks at length in his book Tiny Habits about the importance of celebration when it comes to building new habits. He says that by celebrating, we are using our brains to automate this process. So you could do this every time you save. Do a little whoop or whatever works for you. You could also do this every time you say no to something that you don't really need or want to spend money on. In my experience, psychological tips or hacks are the most sustainable long term. 19. A thing I found helpful at points is asking myself whether I'd be willing to spend double the asking price. If you would do this, then that would mean, yeah, maybe I really want it. No, then maybe you're probably only buying it because it's cheap or because it's on sale or because there is some other offer going on, but it's not really something that you want in your budget. Number 20 is to use apps like Too Good To Go to get things at a discounted price. Too Good To Go is a really great way to not only save food waste, but also to save money on eating out or getting some food if you're on the go, or you're someone who prefers convenience because you're incredibly busy, you've got multiple jobs, and you want to just get something quick and cheap. Number 21, one of my favorite things is to try a no-spend week, no-spend month, no-spend year. Not many people want to try a no-spend year, but a couple of weeks or a couple of months, they can really help you get a handle on the way that you're spending. Is it emotional? Is it because you actually need these items? Is it because you're bored? All of these different things. It helps you to really hone in on the reasons why we do these things, like consume, and hopefully create some better habits. Number 22, if possible, to pay annually rather than monthly. Loads of people, loads of subscriptions will do this, where they'll give you a much bigger discount if you pay annually, and it can be difficult, and this is something you must think about whether you are going to want it for a whole year. But if you can save up a little bit and then spend that money on an annual membership rather than a monthly one, then you can save a lot of money in the long run. Obviously this is not possible for everyone, so if this is not possible for you, leave this one, but for people who can afford to do so, it is a great idea. Number 23 is to go paperless. And now what I mean by this is, for my LISA, for example, I was getting paper statements because I didn't realise that I didn't have to. I didn't realise I could get digital ones. They were charging me £12 every 3 months for statements that I didn't even want. And when I found this out and I was able to actually change it and go paperless, then I realised I was wasting £12 every 3 months, which might not seem a lot, but over time that does add up. And it's just fees. They're fees that you don't need to be paying. So if you have paper statements or things like that, I would highly recommend seeing if you can go paperless and get rid of any of those fees that are just an absolute waste. Number 24 is to check if there is a free option first before buying. All of you guys always say to me, Imi, why are you buying books when you can just go to the library? And a library is a great option if you have the time and the patience to wait and order in a book that you want. So checking for a free option is always a great place, especially if you're trying to save money in, every aspect of your life. Number 25 is to Skillswap. I'm a huge fan of skill swapping. Every year my sister services my bike for free. She does it all. And I I look after her dog for her, mostly whenever she wants. I don't think she quite knows that that's the Skillswap, but she puts in hours of her time to look after my bike and refurbish it and make sure that it's got all the new things that it needs, the brake pads are working. And I know looking after a dog is not a skill, but like that's something that I can exchange for that. So if I had a skill, for example, I used to offer photography, I would help them take photos for something in exchange for, you know, a personal training session once in a while and things like that. So skill swaps are huge things that I think are so wonderful. Number 26 is every time I got a pay rise at my first job, I would treat it as though I hadn't. I would treat it as though that was just additional money that could go into my savings. Obviously, there is a point at which you actually just need your basic needs met, and if a pay rise helps that to happen, this probably isn't the tip for you. But if you're someone that's getting to a stage where your needs are met and you just have additional income that you're not quite sure what to do with, saving that money or investing that money is a really great productive way to kind of utilize that bonus or that promotion in a way that kind of works for you financially. Number 27 is to find the cheapest option when it comes to transport. As I said, I don't have a car. I don't want to be paying car insurance each year, MOTs, services, or repaying a car in the first place. I use things like my bike, which is free, obviously because I can. But when I was commuting to King's Cross, which is where I used to work, I would either cycle, which was free because I already had a bike, or I'd get the bus, which to be fair was really long. But it was only £1.50 per way, which was much cheaper than the train. Obviously, some days I got the train when I was particularly tired, or I just couldn't be asked, or I really was in a hurry to get to work. But finding the cheaper option can sometimes be a really great way to save money, especially if you don't need a car. I don't need a car. And especially if you have a bike and you can ride a bike, I can ride a bike. These are just great ways of saving money for me. Now the last one is to negotiate your salary. Now this is something I've been learning a lot about recently. I've been following people like Her First 100K, which is a really great Instagram. The woman who created it basically wants to help women become financially independent and empowered and learn how to use their money for them, which is great because it really aligns with, you know, Female Invest and the platform and everything that I stand for. So negotiating your salary is a great way to, one, be paid what you're worth, but also two, for actually stepping up. So if you get a promotion at work, you're more likely to get maybe a couple of % of an increase, but if you move jobs and you negotiate your salary, the step up can be pretty wild. Now, I'm not an expert on negotiating your salary, so I will leave a link to Her First 100K Instagram down below because she has hundreds of free resources for you. Another great thing is actually to ask the people around you at work. Yes, you might feel uncomfortable about it, but transparency, again, is the best way to create more financial equality. And you'll be surprised, sometimes you might be getting paid 5 to 10k less than those people are, and that's not okay. Okay, so that's it for me. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you are interested, please do check out Female Invest. And remember, you can get 50% off your annual subscription in the comments below. Remember what I said about annual subscriptions and 50% off. You're saving lots of money. If you have any tips yourself, please leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching. If you do like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more on this low buy series and how to save money. So thanks for watching. I'll see you very soon. Bye.